This is the newsroom for today, Wednesday, June 16, 2021. We are broadcasting to you on E1 Scar TV, NTN and Tarsi TV in Bartica. In the headlines, as the country battles the flooding disaster, the President orders an immediate review of drainage and irrigation contracts, penalty clauses for neglect to be inserted. The Health Minister says none of the over 90,000 persons who have taken both vaccine doses have been hospitalized or died, as he again appeals for Guyanese to get vaccinated.
They are all very good vaccines. They work, they're effective, they're safe.
The Enmore Martyrs a look back at the events that led to the colonial police shooting and killing 5 sugar workers on the 73rd anniversary of their death. And in sport, star-studded lineup confirmed for National Senior Track and Field Championship this weekend, and Guyana looking to step up in Gold Cup after World Cup qualifier disappointment. With the news, I'm Avinash Ramzan. Thanks for joining us. We start off by telling you that as Guyana grapples with nationwide flooding due to excessive rainfall and a poor management of the drainage systems, President Dr. Irfan Ali has instructed the Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs, Anil Nandlal, to immediately review all service and maintenance contracts in the public sphere in relation to drainage pumps, sluices, cokers, and drainage and irrigation. In a brief statement on his Facebook page, the President said he has also instructed the Attorney General to enforce any penalty clause against contractors who are in breach of their obligations under these contracts. At the end of May, when several areas of Georgetown were inundated, the President lamented that the City Council, who has responsibility for the maintenance of the drainage infrastructure, was not fulfilling its responsibility. During a recent late-night inspection of pumps in and outside of Georgetown, the head of state discovered that the pumps at Riverview were off, the coker doors were closed, and the worker was asleep. Meanwhile, the Minister of Agriculture, Zulfikar Mustafa, on Wednesday announced that an investigation has been launched to determine what goes on at the drainage pumps in the capital city. An early morning heavy downpour on Tuesday resulted in flooding in several areas. This comes after checks were being made on Tuesday evening to ensure that everything was in order to handle the heavy downpour. The minister said that the operator at the Rimeveld pump location was nowhere to be found. Further, he said that 3 other drainage pumps, one at Cowan Street, at Riverview, and at Commerce Street, are inoperable, and the reason is currently unknown. But the minister assured that works are being conducted to ensure that the pumps are up and running to prepare for the intense rainfall expected throughout the week.
According to the Hydromet office, they said from this morning we had close to about 2.5 inches of rainfall that fell in the city. And yesterday we have seen also high intensity, close to about 3 inches of rainfall that fell yesterday. But that doesn't mean that the city have to flood on every occasion that the rain falls. From NDIA and the Ministry of Agriculture and the government, we are trying our utmost to ensure that we put the supporting system in place, but then the City Council will have to also play their part. Last night when our engineers were checking to see those pumps and sluices that are operable, what he found that the Rumveld sluice was not operating because the operator was not there. There was no one from the City Council to check. No one from the City Council to check to see if the operators are operating these pumps or the sluices. So I spoke to the town clerk this morning and I told her in no uncertain term that they have to have a mechanism to check. We are not getting the cooperation from the City Council because we from NDIA, we have to have our engineers out to check these pumps. We have to have our engineers to check to ensure that the sluices are working. So what it means that the City Council is abdicating their responsibility, and it seems that every time that we have heavy downpour, we are finding that 2 or 3 pumps suddenly become inoperable. So I've asked both the CEO and the chairman of NDIA to launch an investigation to find out what's the issue, why we are having this kind of problem. And I want to urge the City Council that let us don't play politics with the lives of people in the city.
Now, the Minister of Health, Dr. Frank Anthony, is again appealing to Guyanese to take the COVID-19 vaccines currently available, saying all of them have proven to be safe and efficient. According to Dr. Anthony, none of the over 90,000 persons who have taken both doses of either the Sinopharm, Sputnik V, or AstraZeneca vaccines have been hospitalized or died.
Since the first doses of COVID-19 vaccines arrived in Guyana some 3 months ago, 223,659 persons have taken at least 1 dose. but medical studies have shown that it is those who will get 2 doses of the vaccines who will have added protection against the virus and not become seriously ill because of the COVID-19 disease. So far, 92,157 persons have taken both doses of either the Sinopharm, Sputnik V, or AstraZeneca vaccines.
The vaccines that we currently have in Guyana and those that are, I would say, globally, they are all very good vaccines. They work, they're effective, they're safe. As of this week, the WHO would have said about 2.2 billion persons would have received vaccines. So we know that these vaccines are working and they're protecting people from getting the disease. We have started our campaign maybe about 14 weeks ago. And since then, we have had a number of persons who would have received both doses of the vaccine. And all of those persons who would have received both doses of the vaccine, none of them have been hospitalized, none of them have come to the ICU, and none of them would have died from COVID. So if there's any proof that anyone would like to have, in a sense, here is the proof that this thing is working. Because none of those persons have come to the hospital or died from COVID. So it's very clear, if you take both doses of the vaccine, you are going to be protected. And that's what we want, people to be safe and protected. So I really want to urge everyone to make sure you take your vaccine, get both doses, and once that happens, you are going to be protected.
During his daily COVID-19 update, Minister Anthony pointed to the availability of vaccines at this time.
So everyone who would have received their first dose, Sinopharm or AstraZeneca vaccine, we have your second dose. Now, after the first dose, we want you to come back at least 4 weeks after to make sure that you get your second dose. So that goes for Sinopharm. Between 4 weeks to 12 weeks, anytime within that period, you can come back for your AstraZeneca second dose. And for the Sputnik V, initially we were saying after 4 weeks. Now we have received information from the Gamaleya Institute, the people who would have manufactured Sputnik V, and they're saying that you can get your second dose within 4 weeks to 12 weeks. Now, we have, as we have said before, we have AstraZeneca in country, we have Sinopharm in country, so for those 2 vaccines, come and get your second dose. For the Sputnik V, which is a totally different vaccine for your second dose, we don't have in country right now, but we are making the arrangements to make sure that we can get it in as soon as possible. And as soon as we get those vaccines in, because I know a lot of people have been eagerly awaiting for the second dose to come in, as soon as we get it in, we'll announce it so that across the country people can go and get their second dose Sputnik V.
Recently, the world's most powerful nations pledged to share COVID-19 vaccine doses internationally in support of global equitable access and to help end the acute phase of the pandemic. G7 countries committed to share at least 870 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines directly, with the aim to deliver at least half by the end of 2021, and reaffirmed their support for COVAX, the Global Vaccine Alliance, as the primary route for providing vaccines to the poorest countries. For the Newsroom, I am Shakima Day.
We tell you now that an early morning downpour caused several parts of Georgetown to be flooded. Central government has again lamented the poor management of the drainage systems in the city. The government of Japan has made approximately $1 million available to boost Guyana's national flood early warning system. The Minister of Agriculture, Zulfikar Mustafa, made a disclosure on Tuesday during a virtual handing over exercise. The minister said the recent flooding has highlighted the need for an effective national flood early warning system. Minister Mustafa said Guyana is currently experiencing the worst flood on record in terms of scale, and recovering from this event will no doubt require the government and the Agriculture Ministry to redirect resources to address the challenges which are also affecting planned interventions. He said the development of a national flood early warning system becomes extremely relevant to the development of Guyana and would factor into the country's disaster risk management strategy. In his keynote address at the Caribbean Urban Forum's 10th International Conference held virtually on Wednesday, President Irfaan Ali posited that urbanization must be directly linked to the achievement of the United Nations' 17 Sustainable Development Goals. This year, the Caribbean Urban Forum, or the CUF, is being hosted by the University of Guyana under the theme Urbanization, Processes, Policies, and Emerging Challenges.
The head of state in his address was keen to mention that urbanization still remains a challenge for Caribbean nations, and in the same vein, commended the organizers for presenting a comprehensive agenda that includes consideration for sustainable urbanization. He pointed out that Guyana's urban sector has undergone notable transformation, particularly in the development of housing, creating a tremendous catalytic effect. He said that the forum is taking place at a time when Guyana is undergoing a new wave of socio-economic change, which will transform the country's physical setting, including its urban landscape. In that context, President Ali noted that urban planning must be viewed as a means to balance development with other socio-environmental objectives in a manner where everyone's interest is considered.
How we respond to urbanization will undoubtedly determine the quality of life of our citizens and whether we achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. And I want to pause here. Urbanization must be linked to the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. There must be a common pathway through which urbanization reflects the attainment of the SDGs. While it is not unusual for us to look outside of the Caribbean for solutions, many of those solutions already exist right here at home. In Guyana, for example, we have been successful in addressing urbanization. The available statistics show that between 1992 and 2011, the degree of urbanization reduced continuously. Our success during this period was by no means accidental, but was due to deliberate efforts by the government of Guyana to embark on an ambitious housing program, where over 100,000 house lots were distributed, and several housing schemes were developed as new growth poles. Very important. The examination of new growth poles, the features of new growth poles, and the opportunity new growth poles offer us as urban and regional planners cannot be understated.
The Caribbean Urban Forum was designed to address specific policy issues within the Caribbean's urban sector. It will not only support the collaborative efforts of planners in the Caribbean and wider America regions, but across the globe. Following the opening ceremony, the CUF sessions will largely be focused on technical presentations by experts in the field of urban planning and allied professions, along with several panel discussion sessions on various issues under the broad thematic area of urbanization, processes, policies, and emerging challenges. The focus of the conference is to confront the issue of urbanization in the Caribbean context with a view to critically examine the range of policy responses to this phenomenon. The dialogue starts with the recognition that the Caribbean is one of the fastest urbanizing regions in the world. Reporting for the Newsroom, I am Shakima Day.
The United States Agency for International Development, USAID, has made a $30,000 donation towards immediate flood relief efforts in Guyana. This was related by USAID's regional representative, Clinton White, during a press engagement on Wednesday. He said USAID's focus on mitigating climate change in the region has intensified.
With climate change now an essential part of United States President Joseph Biden's foreign policy, USAID Regional Representative Clinton White noted that the body will be seeking to work along with Caribbean countries to strengthen their awareness of and preparedness for the impact of climate change. During a brief engagement with members of the media on Wednesday, he related that the ongoing nationwide flooding presents a stark example of the devastating impact climate change can have on countries.
The impact of climate change in the region is huge, personally, environmentally, and economically. Such costs affect the country's competitiveness in international tourism, agriculture, and other markets, thereby reducing employment and income in these sectors of the economy. We are most concerned due to the impact on a family's livelihood, including resource-dependent, low-income, and indigenous groups, and particularly vulnerable individuals such as children, the elderly, and women, who may be more affected financially by these effects of climate change than other segments of the population. Climate change poses a serious threat here to Guyana, as we're witnessing. With 90% of the population living in the low-lying coastal region, Guyana is at risk from sea level rise and coastal flooding impacts. It is a risk not only to the built environment and urban centers located along the coast, but also to the agriculture and natural environment.
Earlier on Wednesday, White related that a Memorandum of Understanding (MOU) was signed with 3 regional partners: the Caribbean Community Climate Change Center, the Caribbean Institute for Meteorology and Hydrology, and the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency. This MOU signifies the collaboration between the parties to build the region's awareness, preparedness, and action steps to counter the impact of climate change. Addressing the situation in Guyana directly, he related that USAID will be providing US $30,000 or 6.2 million Guyana dollars in immediate flood relief.
In response to the flooding, the United States government, through USAID, is providing an immediate $30,000 in humanitarian assistance. $15,000 is going to the Guyana Red Cross for the local purchase and transportation of relief hampers, including cleaning and personal hygiene kits. An additional $15,000 is going to assist the CDC in the transportation of relief items to priority regions. Our Bureau for Humanitarian Assistance continues to engage and monitor the situation with the CDC and other key organizations.
Now, the Canadian High Commission on Tuesday inked a contribution agreement for a new project with HIAS Guyana entitled Increasing Protection and Awareness for Vulnerable Venezuelan Women and Adolescent Girls in Guyana who are survivors or at risk of gender-based violence.
The project to be executed by HIAS Guyana will be aimed at addressing the needs of the Venezuelan migrant population in local communities in Guyana. Specific focus will be placed on providing gender-based violence prevention and responsive services to migrant women and girls currently residing in Port Kaituma, Georgetown, and Bartica. Their needs will be assessed to provide psychosocial support, legal assistance, and the implementation of an action plan for the ongoing monitoring and evaluation of the cases. The Canadian High Commissioner Mark Berman pointed out that there are over 5.6 million Venezuelans who have left or fled their homes since 2015. He said that on a large scale, Canada is supporting the migrant population by hosting the next International Donors Conference in solidarity with Venezuelan refugees and migrants to be held on June 17, 2021.
The Venezuelan refugee and migrant situation really has exhibited unprecedented needs across Latin America and the Caribbean. Right now it's over 5.6 million Venezuelans have left or fled their homes since 2015, with over 4.6 million remaining in the region. This is, and I wasn't aware of this is the second largest displacement crisis in the world, and the needs just continue to grow. On the other side of the crisis, there are critical issues such as gender-based violence, trafficking and discrimination that have emerged as equally important issues, and they require our attention. And this is why our collaboration with HIAS in Guyana is very timely. Our partnership will be providing critical support to the migrant communities in Guyana as they resettle in a new environment. And part of this includes support addressing gender-based violence in migrant communities and offering comprehensive case management services and emergency support.
Meanwhile, Country Director for HIAS Alex Turan in her remarks thanked Canada for its support of the project.
On behalf of women and adolescent girls here in Guyana who have made their way from Venezuela, this is an incredibly challenging time in the world for a number of reasons, not least of which a pandemic, but also the responsibility of hosting people who have been displaced from another country is a responsibility for the whole world, and it really gives me a lot of hope when I see incredible countries like Canada who have strong track records on supporting refugees and displaced people stepping up and supporting women and girls here in Guyana.
Through the project, dignity kits, hygiene and self-care products will also be distributed to the women, girls and other gender-based violence survivors to promote physical well-being, alleviate family budget constraints, and to ensure that they can move around despite their periods. The kits will also include health and protection information, which will raise awareness on hygiene, reproductive health, and gender-based violence. The project will be executed over the course of 1 year. For the newsroom, I am Shakima Day.
When the newsroom returns, a look back at the events 73 years ago that led to colonial police shooting and killing 5 sugar workers who came to be known as the Enmore Martyrs. This is the newsroom. 73 years ago, 5 men who came to be known as the Enmore Martyrs were gunned down by colonial police. But what events led to that fateful event on June 16, 1948? The answers are in this piece produced by the Ministry of Education and the Guyana Learning Channel Trust.
The canal flowed with calm, telling nothing of what it knew, of the rainstorms and high winds, and the droughts of years gone by, of the stench of dead cows and the thunder of purple clouds. Edgar Metahalzo. Rambaran, Puran, Lalabaji, Suraj Bali, and Harry, 5 men who gave their lives fighting for something far beyond fair wages and better living conditions, fighting for their humanity. After slavery officially ended in British Guyana in 1838, the planters introduced a period of contract labor called indentureship. The vast majority of indentured laborers came from India, with an estimated 238,000 of them brought to British Guyana between 1838 and 1917. Indentured laborers faced strict social and industrial control, supported by an unjust legal system, placing them at a great disadvantage. Long after the last Indian indentured immigrants arrived in 1917, this oppressive system remained. This system of oppression was detailed by the report of the West India Royal Commission, popularly called the Moyne Report, which visited Guyana during the period January 27th to February 20th, 1939. The Commission described the terrible conditions under which people in British Guyana lived. It was especially critical of the plight of sugar workers and small farmers, condemning unsafe conditions at workplaces. These were the conditions that Rambaran, Puran, Lalabaji, Suraj Bali, and Harry, and so many others were living in. On April 22, 1948, over 1,000 laborers drawn from plantations Enmore, Nonpareil, Luzignan, Monrepo, La Bonne Intention, Friedslus, and Ogle Estates, backed by the Guyana Industrial Workers Union, went on strike. The Manpower Citizens Association, the official union of the sugar workers, asked them to return to work, promising to negotiate for higher wages with the Sugar Producers Association. However, most sugar workers had lost confidence in the Manpower Citizens Association and demanded that talks be done through the Guyana Industrial Workers Union. The Sugar Producers Association refused. The sugar estates hired temporary laborers called scab workers from as far as Berbice and Essequibo to work the estate and convinced some workers to return to work as well. Despite this, the strike plowed on, and on June 14th, the Manpower Citizens Association met with the Sugar Producers Association. The meeting was unsuccessful on 2 fronts. An agreement could not be reached, and sugar workers did not trust the Manpower Citizens Association to handle their interests. Frustration mounted, and the next day, overseers and sugar workers who had returned to the estate were attacked at non-parole by some striking sugar workers. On June 16, a crowd of about 400 workers gathered outside the sugar factory at Enmore for a protest and picketing exercise. Expecting the protest, the management of Enmore Estate had requested assistance from the police. Lance Corporal James and 6 armed policemen were stationed in the factory compound. The crowd had swelled by 10 a.m. to about 500 to 600 persons and was led by a sugar worker carrying a red flag. The crowd attempted to enter the compound but were blocked by the gates and police. Some then hurled objects at the police, with several persons entering the compound through the rear of the factory. A section of the crowd hurled bricks and sticks at the policemen, and several persons managed to enter the compound. The policemen tried to push back the crowd. Failing, they opened fire. 5 workers were killed, and 40 others were injured. Lalabaji Kisoon, 30 years old, was shot in the back. 19-year-old Puran was shot in the leg and pelvis. Rambaran died from bullet wounds in his leg. Duki died in the hospital later that day, and Harry died the following day from severe spinal injuries. These men sacrificed their lives to improve job conditions, not only on the sugar estates, but also for all working-class Guyanese. In 1976, these 5 men were honored as the Enmore Martyrs. The Enmore Martyrs Monument is located in the village of Enmore on the east coast of Demerara. Unveiled on June 16, 1977, and standing approximately 7.6 meters high, the monument rests on a raised concrete base. Designed by Guyanese artist and writer Dr. Dennis Williams, the structure is made with white cement and has 5 verticals, each fixed with brass symbols resembling cutlasses and inscribed with the names of the 5 martyrs. There is also a plaque designed by Guyanese artist Mr. Stanley Greaves and cast by the Brass, Aluminum, and Cast Iron Foundry of Guyana. The bravery of the Enmore Martyrs not only represents the fight for working-class rights, but the collective struggle of our ancestors against imperialism and for Guyana's development.
Meanwhile, the ruling People's Progressive Party has said that the struggles and sacrifices of the Enmore martyrs remain very relevant today. The PPP in a statement called attention to the selfless sacrifices of the 5 slain sugar workers, Rambaran, Puran, Lalabaji, Surajbali and Harry, and the profound relevance of the incident today. The party said the struggles of the Enmore martyrs and its founder, Dr. Cherry Jagan, were guiding forces during the period when thousands of sugar workers were fired and plunged into economic despair when the last APNU AFC government closed 4 estates. The party said the sacrifice of the Enmore martyrs was also a source of inspiration when the APNU AFC government tried to steal the March 2, 2020 elections in defiance of the will of the Guyanese people. In the end, the PPP stated, truth and democracy prevailed and exemplifies the relevance of the struggles of the Enmore martyrs in today's world. The PPP said it will continue to honor the memory of those martyrs so as to ensure their sacrifices would not be forgotten. When the newsroom returns, the financial, weather and bridge reports along with sports. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Newsroom. Now for a look at what's happening in sport. We're starting off with some athletics news. Long considered a rising star in the profession, Guyanese Alian Pompey has been chosen to lead the St. John's track and field and cross-country program as its next head coach. It was announced on Wednesday by the Director of Athletics, Mike Cragg. Pompey, who has been at St. John's since the fall of 2014, most recently served as the program's associate head coach for the 2020-2021 academic year. She will take over from her former boss and mentor, Jim Hurt, who retired last month after 4 decades with the Reds term. Here's what Alian had to say after the appointment.
It means a lot to be able to take over a program that has such rich tradition and history of success. I am really excited about getting started. I think that's a good place to start. But I think we have such an amazing group of student athletes returning to the team, as well as some phenomenal incoming athletes, that, you know, it's kind of a really, really great place to start. I think we can have some immediate impact. One of the things that helped in recruiting is kind of being able to have experienced some of what they're aspiring to. So the way I can talk to them about it is from a different perspective. It's from a perspective of having gone through it. And in a lot of cases, the athletes that I'm recruiting feel that I can best guide them along that journey. So I think there will be a lot more of that. You know, we have some aspiring Olympians and some aspiring NCAA champions on our team, and that are coming in as well, and I've done both of those things. So I'm, you know, looking to exploit that a little bit, but in a way that's going to help them achieve their goals. Even though I've been with the team for a while already, 7 years so far, I think a lot's going to be different. You know, I can't necessarily pinpoint all of it, but the role is different. My perspective is going to have to change. It's not going to be easy. You know, Coach Hurd promised to be a resource for the couple months after he's retired, and then he's off playing golf. But I definitely plan on tapping into my resources, both in the coaching world as well as here at St. John's University, to help me adapt to this new role. I'm most excited about possibly winning the Big East. You know, again, I mentioned the team that we've put together and recruited so far for this year. I think we have a really good shot of doing it over the next few years. And, you know, I'm genuinely happy and excited about leading this team, because I believe that we can achieve so much together, and I just can't wait to get started.
Now, all systems are a go for this weekend's Senior National Track and Field Championship at the National Track and Field Center at Lenora. Several overseas-based athletes are already in Guyana to compete in the three-day event, starting Friday and ending on Sunday. Notably, the event would be held behind closed doors, with only athletes, coaches and officials allowed in the venue. The championship is set to run from Friday at 17 hours, followed by 2 sessions on Saturday starting at 10 and 13 hours. On Sunday, the final day, the action will start at 13 hours. According to President of the Athletics Association of Guyana, Aubrey Hudson, a star-studded lineup is confirmed for the event, with several of Guyana's leading overseas competitors already in the country.
I know for sure that most of the international or athletes from outside of Guyana, even though they're competing at our National Senior Championship, Alea and Jasmine Abrams are here, Jeremy Bascom is here, Arenzi Chance is here, and I know the one triple jumper from Suriname, he's also here. I know there are more coming in, but those figures I cannot tell you right now. Also, our local athletes, this event is packed. Even though we would have limited it to 3 athletes per club in an event, we still have clubs making a lot of noise about wanting to put more of their athletes in.
In early June, Hudson indicated that the National Senior Track and Field Championships would be the primary focus for athletes seeking to qualify for the July-August Olympic Games in Tokyo. The qualification period for the Olympics will end on June 29, 2021.
The technical meeting should be on Thursday in the afternoon, where we're going to really and truly sanctify the technical meet program in terms of athletes being placed in their respective lanes. A preliminary list is already out, and we have as much as 4 heats in the 100 meters. So the technical delegate is looking back at that and see if we might have to do preliminary, semifinals, and finals. That's going to be worked out between now and tomorrow afternoon. Outside of that, we have 2 800 meters. There are also 4 200s. As I said, there are 2 800s. We would have had to scratch the 100 meters hurdles for females, so we advised Janae McCammon not to bother to make the trip, because there was no competition for her here, and so we advised that she not come, because it doesn't make sense if she's the only person in the event. in World Athletic Standards, we need at least 3 to call it an event.
Media manager of the local organizing committee for Guyana's hosting of the Carifta Games, Liron Brummel, said the National Senior Championship will serve as a testing ground for systems to be implemented in the upcoming regional competition. According to Brummel, the event has received the necessary approval from the National COVID-19 Task Force, and the AAG will work to ensure all protocols are followed on the 3 days.
Will be done. So at the end of the 3 days that we have here, we will sit down, assess what we started with, our strengths and our weaknesses, and then of course look at evaluating that to make it better and fine-tune it for Carifta. We are constantly meeting with NACAC officials as well in our weekly meetings and updating them on our plan. At this stage, we are ahead, according to NACAC officials, in terms of our planning on paper. We have received kudos as being one of the better planned events on paper at this stage. But taking into consideration COVID, there are a number of issues that not only local federations have to deal with, local associations have to deal with. All other countries participating in Carifta have the same challenge of whether we send junior athletes to events, knowing that at this stage they're not being vaccinated and just the adults. So.
Football news now. After an ordinary performance in the first round of the 2022 World Cup qualifiers, Guyana's senior national team will now aim to step up their game in the CONCACAF Gold Cup prelims in early July. Given the restrictions imposed by COVID-19, the Guyana Football Federation is looking to give the players much needed time in the host country to get into peak condition. The Golden Jaguars are down to face Guatemala on July 3 in Miami in what is an expanded preliminary round of the CONCACAF Gold Cup prelims.
Coach Marcio Maximo and his technical staff must now shift their focus to preparing the team for the opening game against Guatemala on July 3rd, 2021 in Miami. We are planning to travel to Miami early with the hope of playing 2 friendly games as part of our preparation for this important encounter. These friendly games are crucial in assessing the players' level of match fitness and other performance benchmarks.
While Guyana would no doubt hope for an improved performance from the World Cup qualifiers, they face a side that narrowly missed out on making it to the second round of the qualifiers. Guatemala finished second in Group C to Curaçao with 3 wins from 4 games compared to Guyana's 3 defeats in 4 matches and a penultimate spot finish in Group F. Guatemala is also the higher-ranked nation at 127 in FIFA and 12 in CONCACAF, while Guyana is 165 in FIFA and ranked 20 in CONCACAF.
There is no doubt that Guatemala will be a tough obstacle in advancing to the round of 16, and we should be realistic about our expectations. However, we expect the squad and staff to give everything that they have to cause Guatemala some serious problem throughout the match. And we know the support of the fans can make all the difference. After the Gold Cup, the team will not be in competitive action until next year. We will use this time to further strengthen the development of our domestic-based national team players, together with a consistent level of local and international competitive games.
The draw for the prelims involved the 12 national teams which earned a place in the Gold Cup qualifiers through their performances in the CONCACAF Nations League group stage, which was played between September and November 2019. This includes the bottom-placed finishes in League A groups, the runners-up in League B groups, and the winners of League C groups. The top 6 teams based on the CONCACAF ranking were preceded into matchups 1 through 6, and the next 6 were drawn from a single pot. The prelim games are Haiti versus St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Guatemala versus Guyana, Trinidad versus Montserrat, Cuba versus French Guyana, Guadeloupe versus the Bahamas, and Bermuda versus Barbados. After direct elimination play over 3 match days between July 2 to July 6, 2021, the 12 teams would be reduced to a final 3 who will qualify for the Gold Cup group stage. Based on the draw, should Guyana beat Guatemala, they would go on to face either Guadeloupe or the Bahamas. If they win that second contest, they will qualify in Group C. Now, the final archery qualification tournament for the Tokyo Olympic Games was initially scheduled to be held in Berlin in June 2020. However, following the 1-year delay of the Games, it would now be held in Paris. The tournament in Paris from June 19 to 21 is designated a final Olympic qualification event, and for Guyana, it is the last chance for archer Devin Pirmal to obtain his ticket to the Tokyo Games. After this tournament, Paris will also host the 2021 Archery World Cup from June 21 to 28, at which Guyana is also registered to participate. Persaud has been showing good form recently, hitting scores of 639 and 651 from a possible 720 in 2 rounds in Canada. Archery Guyana is excited about Persaud's chances at the Olympic qualifying event in Paris and wished him the best at the 3-day competition. Now, first it was Cristiano Ronaldo and now it's Paul Pogba. The day after Ronaldo made headlines by removing 2 bottles of Coca-Cola at a news conference and then encouraging people to drink water instead, Pogba has gone viral for removing a bottle of Heineken beer. The 28-year-old Frenchman, who is a practicing Muslim, made no comment on the matter, just discreetly moved the non-alcoholic beer and placed it below the table during a post-match press conference. It came after he played a starring role in France's 1-0 Group F victory over Germany at Euro 2020 and was awarded the Heineken Star of the match. It is understood UEFA does not see the player's actions as an issue, despite the incidents involving 2 of their high-profile sponsors. The market value of the American drinks giant lost around $4 billion after Ronaldo's actions. And with that, we've come to the end of the news for this evening. Of course, you can find updates on these and other stories on our website, Newsroom.gy, our Facebook page and Instagram. On behalf of the entire news team, my name is Avinash Ramzan. Thanks for watching. Be safe. See you next time.